Chris said mic because he asked if mic or no mic, and I said, you said use the mic. And for you out in TV land, what we're talking about is I'd listened to some of what's going on in there with the mic. There seems to be a little bit of echo, and we're having a discussion about that. And without the mic, there's not an echo. But we have an outside speaker here that goes into the alley, and if I don't use the mic, they can't hear me out there when they go out and smoke. So Chris is getting ready to do that right now. So I'm thinking, maybe Sean too, I don't know. But anyway, that's what's going on. And welcome here to Saturday Night Live, Life Recovery Ministry. Life is a mess, and it's messy, and we're here to just try to help. I can't fix anybody, none of us can, but we all can help each other and we can get better, right? Right. So, and that's what we want to do. We want things to get better. Tonight we're going to be talking about the paradox of powerlessness. Man, it's going to be good. Paradox of powerlessness. Do what?
I didn't have no time to work on it.
You didn't?
No.
Well, it'll be good. You're lying to me. And so anyway, it's going to be good. I want to start off with some, last week I forgot to, I already saw that we were handing out some bracelets. But anyway, we have SNL Clean Time bracelets. And does anybody need any SNL, or we already got them? All right, we already got them. Anyway, we have bracelets for from 0 to 30 days, and we got 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 18 months, which is gray, and black is 2 years, and silver is 5 years, and gold is 10 years. And we have that, and just to help encourage folks. And if you'd like a bracelet, come and be here with us. And we'd like to give you one. And if you aren't able to come here, if you want to make contact with us, we'll see what we can do about sending you one. So, also we do have a basket over there on the table if you would like to donate here to Saturday Night Live. All right, let's go into our quotes, okay? Thoughts, quotes, and questions. I put down some thoughts. Actually, some of them are thoughts, some of them are quotes. So tonight, it's going to start off with some thoughts, and that is, change your thoughts, change your life. Yes? Change your thoughts, change your life. Change your choices, change your life, right? So we can change our thoughts, and maybe it will change our life, and it probably will. But if we change our thoughts and our choices, we'll definitely change our life. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So I got another thought here. It says you will never change your life until you change your choices.
Amen.
And all kind of dovetails together. And this one ties together with step one here, this next thought, and that is, when you refuse to admit your powerlessness, we are only deceiving ourselves. And powerlessness and admitting our powerlessness sometimes can be confusing, and we're going to be talking about that tonight, okay? And hopefully we can clear some of that up. So, next one is from Willie Nelson. Anybody like Willie Nelson?
Yep.
Willie Nelson says, once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results. That was from Brother Willie there. And here's another one. He says, when I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. That's so important. Why do you think that is? Why would he say because he started counting these blessings, his life turned around?
Because he realized what good was happening to him and he phased out what bad was happening.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts?
If we focus on the positive, then we don't really see the negative. You know, it's not as big a deal.
Yeah. Well, in neuroscience it says whatever you think on, that thought gets bigger. So if you think on the negative, it gets larger, stronger. If you think on the positive, and how many of us oftentimes don't even think about the blessings, the positive things in our life? All we think about is the negative. And so what does that do in your life? It makes that negative stuff gets bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And if it gets bigger and bigger, it gets more powerful. And if it gets more powerful, then it runs your life.
Yep.
So count your blessings. Name them one by one, right? Right. Let's see. Let's jump down here. Did I read last week one from John F. Kennedy? President John F. Kennedy?
Nope.
Let me read that one. As we express our gratitude, talking about gratitude again, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by the words. What do you think about that? Good?
Good.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, guys, here in person and also on the internet. All we want to do is try to help you. And by the way, we are meeting live here. I had a fella just this morning said, are you meeting live? And I said, yes, we're meeting live. Now, we will be having a Saturday, the second Saturday, right? Second Saturday in February, we will not be here, which is the, what did I say that was? That would be the 12th. But other than that, as far as we know, we'll be here. So anyway, glad you're here. Glad you guys are here. And now we're going to have Willie. Willie's going to come read steps.
Yeah, Willie!
Thank you, Willie.
Let's go.
We admit that we were powerless in our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. We came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. We admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our own. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. We humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. We made a direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. We sought through prayer, meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs.
Yeah, Willie!
Hello, everyone. In here and out there. Over there. You'll see that later. Life's been busy this week. I watched this Batman cartoon. It was like the Paradox of something. And it was like where it wasn't Batman's parents that died, it was Batman that died, and his dad was Batman, and his mom was the Joker. It was weird. I was like, it was called the Paradox of something. was like, oh, paradox, some paradox I'll watch it. It was kind of, had me thinking how in that world, doing drugs and stuff, you know, the paradox that we believe, like things are real in that life, and it's really not. The paradox of powerlessness. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems, that our lives have become unmanageable. We may be afraid to admit that we are powerless, that our life is unmanageable. If we admit that we are powerless, we won't be tempted to give up completely in the struggle against our addiction. It doesn't seem to make sense that we can admit powerlessness and still find the power to go on. This paradox will be dealt with as we go on to steps 2 and 3. Life is full of paradoxes. The Apostle Paul tells us this: the precious treasure, this light and power that now shines within us, is held in perishable containers, that is, in our weak bodies, so everyone can see that our glorious power is from God and is not our own. We are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed and broken. The picture here contrasts a precious treasure and the simple container in which the treasure is stored. The living power poured into our life from above is the treasure. Our human body, with all its flaws and weakness, is the perishable container. As human beings, we are imperfect. Once we recognize the paradox of powerlessness, we can be quite relieved. We don't have to always be strong or pretend to be perfect. We can live a real life with its daily struggles in a human body beset with weakness, and still find the power from above to keep going without being crushed and broken. I read this like 3 or 4 times this week, and when I read the scripture thing, it talked about like our body was like a clay pot, and I thought about cremains, how they look just like the stuff in a pottery class that you mix up to make a pot. It's like, that's kind of strange. So I guess we are clay pots. And I didn't have time to work with the questions really. I've just been really, really busy with some stuff with my work this week, and I didn't have much time for myself. And I put, believing my delusions of how I will make it out of darkness has only led to more powerlessness. While in my addiction, leading me to search for just one more hit after another, telling myself that the drug will help me overcome the obstacles in life, even though the drug would give me a false sense of power and authority. And I wanted to look up, I googled Paradox of Powerlessness, and it said researchers find that feeling powerless can lead people to support systems that disadvantage them.
That's good.
When do people voice opposition to social systems that disadvantage them, and when do they paradoxically support them? Well, my case was when I wanted to get high. You know, I would contradict myself into a state of paranoia and fear of an invisible enemy that I would then run from, and find myself so far from God and God's people that I felt as though I was a foreigner living in a strange land, and I would return to the life of addiction throughout life, even though I didn't support the values of that life. I wanted the high only, so life as an addict was very lonely.
Good.
Thanks. I did this about 3 o'clock today. I really had no time. Like they told me I had a certain amount of time to get stuff done. I went far and beyond and got it done faster so that I can get started in my new job.
So tell us what you learned out of this study.
Things aren't always what you think they are.
What does that mean?
Well, like I've always had my idea of how things are, and as I got clean, and not necessarily getting clean, but as I learned about reality, I learned that I lived in a fantasy world. And that was kind of like my paradox. I believed that my fantasy world was real.
I have another question if I can ask it.
Go for it.
And who put you in the fantasy world?
I could blame some people, but probably myself.
Probably.
Most likely. I mean, that'd get into a very long story because I was not brought up in a Christian home with Christian values. You know, I was not. So it did take a long time for me to get you guys to understand that.
No, we understand that, and so, but.
I take the blame for my responsibility, but I don't take the blame for being taught the wrong things as a child.
Oh, that's true, and I recognize that. But the fact of it is, in your story, you already said that you created a storyline,
Yes,
a scary storyline.
when I was old enough, well, I was actually old enough way before I was supposed to be old enough, doing these things, so, yeah, I guess I'll eat my words a little bit there.
And what are the words you're eating?
I can't blame them for when I was a child, because wait a second, I was getting high when I was a child, so. But they taught me that when I was a child.
Well, they modeled it for you, and that, and.
While I was still innocent, you know?
And that's sad, and I'm sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Thank you.
And,
I forgive them also.
but the rest of the story, there was, and you learned some coping mechanisms that sent you that way. That was a way to escape your messy reality, and so you created what you created. But what you did is not any different than the rest of us. We just haven't told you yet.
Well, thanks for keeping that from me. I'm so busy paying attention to myself, working all these steps here. I'm back on, look at you, look at yourself, you know.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Tommy?
Come on,
I thought you did good, Tommy.
Yeah.
thank you. Good night, you guys.
Yeah, boy. Very insightful.
Thank you.
I watched a show today on TV called Night Court. It was the episode where Buddy, the judge's Harry's friend, and a friend of his gets put in an institution for crazy people because they're a bit off. And Harry gets to where Buddy isn't going to be going in there, and then Buddy's friend, who hasn't talked, talks to him and says, "Don't leave me because you're my only friend." And the reason he was saying this is, as we are children, we're told Santa Claus is real, the Easter Bunny is real, and the Tooth Fairy is real. But when we grow up, we are told that they're not. And this guy was saying that around Buddy, he felt okay. He could feel it. He felt that he was okay. But Buddy's the only real friend he had. And if Buddy wasn't there with him, he couldn't deal with stuff. So there's a paradox in our reality. We are told stuff that is wrong, that's drilled into our heads that is right. And then as we grow, we realize that it's wrong, and we have to deal with that reality. So our reality is a paradox. Thank you.
Good go. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I think, if it's all right with Chris, I won't use the mic right now, all right? And so, any comments from you guys up to this point about what we've covered? Questions or comments? Okay. course, the topic for tonight is the paradox of powerlessness. And we're talking about, well, let me read step 1 again, okay? I know we've read it a couple different times, but let's go ahead and read it again. And that we admit that we were powerless over our problems, that our lives had become unmanageable, okay? And so the question here is that oftentimes we're afraid of admitting that we're powerless, because basically our culture has taught us that we have to be powerful, right? And so we don't want to admit that we're powerless. But the fact of it is, and I'll touch on this later, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it now. It's not that we're powerless in our life, because we have the power to choose our thoughts, choose our behaviors, choose our actions. Our relationships, all these different, how we're going to live. For the most part, we have that power to choose. But what it's talking about here is that we have to recognize that we're powerless over our addiction, our acting out, our behavior, whatever it is that brought you here, okay? Whatever it is that you finally figured out this was wrecking your life. Does that make sense? So it's that I can't control this addiction or this acting out or this behavior or this alcohol. It controls me. I can't control it. Does that help clear up a little bit here? Yep. And so if I'm out of control, we'll use a different word here. If I'm out of control in this area, if it controls me instead of me being able to have control of it, then that means it's got more power than I've got in my life. Does that make sense? We all know that we can have cravings or yearnings or jonesing or for something, okay, or well, we could just say so on, so on, so on. But and if we allow those yearnings or cravings or desires to continue to work in us, because relapses don't start on the day they happen. Isn't that true? They start long before the actual event. So it's a long process. And then we start having to, we think about, we rationalize, we justify, we say all kinds of mental maneuvers, all right? And when we have the opportunity, then we take action to fulfill that craving or that desire or that thought. Yes, sir.
So, this is, I don't know if it's off topic or not, but so would you say like a reservation, if you quit with reservations there, then would that be, essentially that's the beginning of the next relapse?
So is that a question or a comment?
Is that the question? Would that be the beginning of?
What do you think it would be?
I think it would be.
I think I agree with you. Yeah. I had a guy one time, I helped him destroy a meth lab. We turned it into the sheriff's department. The sheriff came out and took it, and everything was good. The only trouble is he didn't turn it all in. He kept some of the more expensive elements, let's put it that way. And he was sincere. but there was, what would you call that, a reservation? Just in case he might need it.
Yeah.
Well, why else would you keep it, right?
Right.
Well, because it was worth a lot of money. It was valuable. You know, could be, you know, I could sell it, okay? You know, so he kept it. And he did good for a good long while. But that thing, well, I don't know for sure that it did this, but I would bet it did this. It kept talking to him,
Yep.
right? Have you ever had stuff talk to you?
Yep.
And if he would have taken action and made a healthy choice and did something else with that, then he wouldn't have used it and then had a relapse. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right? And I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just saying that these things are so subtle that, you know, we can justify it by saying, well, but it's worth a lot of money and it could be valuable, you know. This is not the easiest thing to find, and maybe if I get a pinch, I could sell it, which is definitely not a good idea if you're trying to be clean, right? But you know how our mind can work, particularly when we're locked into a toxic mindset. Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. So those would be a reservation.
Yes.
Okay. Now I love this guy and I still love him. Okay. And to my knowledge, he's clean today. Okay. But the fact of it is, we all set booby traps for ourselves. Okay. Proverbs even says that about us. Okay. Says you know that we set traps for birds, and then we trap ourselves. Okay. We walk into our own traps. That's could be called a reservation. How's that?
Yep.
Okay. And so so if we're powerless over this stuff, that means it's got more power than us, and it will reel us in if we make those reservations. Right? Okay. You know, I had another guy, he came in and I told him, I said, you need to make a plan. Now this may sound weird, but with the topic here, but it came to my mind, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you the story. Is that okay?
Yeah.
He came in and he said, I'm done. In the name of Jesus, I'm done. I said, well, good. But what's your plan for a relapse? He said, relapse? I'm done. I said, I believe you. But do you have a plan for what happens when you have a relapse? He got mad at me, okay? And that's kind of hard. I asked, it was much softer, we got limited time right now, but it was softer, but he still got mad at me. And I said, well, listen to me, because the fact of it is, the potential for having a relapse is pretty high, and if you don't have a plan to be able to turn that around, it's just it will take you over and take you deep. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And I said, so you need to have a plan, because when you're in the middle of a relapse, you can't create a plan. You're at the will, because it's got the power and you're powerless. Yes. And so well, he left. But about a year later, he came back and saw me, and he apologized. Do you know why? Yeah. And he said, I didn't know what you was talking about. And he was totally sincere. I'm not saying he wasn't sincere, but the fact of it is, you got a plan, and that plan is a way to take away those reservations, those escapes. You know, sometimes it's like I can withstand it until I get the last straw that breaks that camel's back, and then I got to give in. Well, see, you just made a reservation, right? I know another guy that said, I can do everything except for when my mom dies. You talked about Grandpa earlier. Said when my mom dies, I don't know how I'm going to handle that. Well, you know what that means, right? And of course, you know, we talked about it, but he had that set in stone in his brain, because that was the ultimate pain for him, and I get that. But the fact of it was, he did not have a path through that. And because he didn't have a path through that, he got the path that he created, okay? And that was into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So, and I'm not trying to bash people, I'm just saying we mess with ourselves. We set ourselves up for defeat. And we don't have to. We can set ourselves up for victory. But the fact of it is, victory comes from multiple battles. It's not just one and done. Okay? And the fact of it is, relapses happen. And what I tell people all the time, when you have a relapse or if stuff happens, I say, well, what did you learn? Because if you don't learn it now, you're going to get to do it again until you finally do learn it, right? Did you want to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought you had your hand. And so we need to learn from our experiences. Am I happy you had a relapse? No. But am I happy that you learned something? Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and so we have to take every experience, even if it's a bad experience, and use it as a learning opportunity. Okay? So, powerlessness. I am powerless over that thing that I don't have any power in. That's what that means. Does that make sense? Yes. And so we need to admit, okay, all right, I don't have any power here. I can't pull myself together. If I get in that hole, it's going to take me under. So I need to recognize I don't want to get in that hole. And so I have to recognize and build mental, emotional, spiritual fences to help me to stay out of that place. Does that make sense? Change the people, places, and things, right? And not go there. I had another guy, I know I'm telling a lot of stories tonight for some reason, but I had another guy that I was talking to. We had lunch and was visiting, and was talking about this other fella and that he was working with, and he said, I'm trying to help him, and he said, so the way I decided I was going to help him, I decided that I would just do more dope than he could do. Teach him that that's not what to do. How do you think that worked out for those guys?
Not very well.
I mean, that was his, I mean, he was absolutely serious, and that's what he did. Because he knew that he could do more than the other guy, and he knew he'd, like people do with drinking, they put him under the table, okay? They both went under the table, right? And it wasn't just for a little while, it was a long while, okay? Because he particularly sabotaged himself. Maybe it was a good heart. Maybe he was just deceiving himself. I don't know. I'm not that good, okay? All right? And I'm not going to judge that. But the fact of it is, you get it. You hear what I'm saying, right? Okay? That's not the way to help somebody you love. That'd be a good place to say amen, oh me, or that's right, or something.
Yeah. When you say something like that, I mean, when the guy told you that's his plan.
Oh, well, this was after the fact. I mean, he'd already done it, okay? What would I say is, I would say, this would be what I'd say. I'd say, you ought to play that movie forward, right? Look where that's going to take you. What's that going to do to you? What's that going to do to him, the person you want to help? Play that movie forward. Okay, if we'll just have that thought in all of our life, just play this thing forward. If I do X, where's that going to take me? Trouble is, we don't want, I heard a guy just say this recently, we don't want to think about the bad stuff because it's going to make me feel bad. It might slow me down a little bit.
Right.
Might slow down my drug.
Yeah.
Drug use.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we set ourselves up. Now, let me tell you something, neuroscience behind this is your brain will work against you to try to get you to do the stuff that it's learned to do to cope with the bad stuff in life. It will cause you pain and cause you misery. It's not there to make you feel good. It's there to help you to avoid pain and to survive. Okay? You follow me?
Yeah.
It's just doing what it's designed to do. Romans 12:2, be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's your mind. You programmed it. You programmed it with the 6 thoughts, and it just works for you. You program it. So what do I do? Reprogram it. Now the trouble is, it's harder to reprogram than it is to program to start off with. That's when Tommy was talking about a while ago about things were modeled in his life that programmed him in a certain way. Doesn't mean you have to go that way, but the fact of it is, he was programmed, and so and that's the way you think, and when you think that way, you begin to see those things that you already perceive in your mind. That's the reticular activating system only letting you see what you've already decided you want to see. Doesn't let you see the good stuff, it only lets you see the bad stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know I just waded out in the weeds there, didn't I? And so what we have to do is we need to recognize that those areas that we're powerless in, we need to recognize it. All right, I haven't gone through this, but it's called Portia's Rules for Life, I think it is. That was a lady named Portia, and she wrote this about. Now I was thinking about, I scanned it. Maybe I remember enough of it. I was thinking about using this for my next Thursday talk that I do. Hey, by the way, I do a Thursday talk that I put on video just like I'm doing right here on these 5 different platforms. The Saturday Night Live platform, which is Doug Wilkerson Saturday Night Live for the YouTube, Central Christian Center Saturday Night Live for Facebook. We got the church's Facebook page, and we got the church's YouTube page, and then my personal deal. But anyway, let's see if I can go through it real quickly. It's the 5 chapters of my life is I was walking down the road and I saw this hole and I fell into it. And it took me a long time. It was very hard, it was very scary, and I didn't know if I could get out of it, but I struggled and worked and I finally got out. Next chapter, I was going down the same road and I saw that hole again, but you know what? I fell in it again. Anybody? Huh?
But you saw it.
Yeah, we saw it. Yeah. We saw. Sometimes we see things, but we don't see them. But you know, I got power over this thing, so it'll be all right. I can get really close, right? You know what I mean? Because I'm powerful and it's not. But fell in. I was in there. I wasn't in there quite as long. It was hard. It was scary. And I was able to figure how to get out. 3rd chapter. I was going down the same road. I saw the hole this time. I tried to go around it. I fell in. It didn't take nearly as long to get out this time. I got out. 4th, I went down the same road again. I decided, I knew where it was. I knew what I was going to do. But I fell in again. Anybody identify with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was able to get out much, much quicker. Fifth one. I decided to go down another road.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Mine be about 20 steps, or there were 20.
Yeah.
Maybe 50.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to feel that right now. Feel it. What do you think that means to you? Okay. So, the paradox of powerlessness. The lies we tell ourselves and others are familiar. Right? I can stop anytime I want. I'm in control, right? This one won't hurt anybody, right? Okay? I'm not affecting anybody else. And each time we make these excuses, we're inching closer and closer to destruction, right? Just like that story that we just went through. And we're doing that to ourselves all the time. And we're fooling ourselves. We're setting ourselves up. But we don't have to do that. What we have to do is recognize that we're powerless over whatever it is, whether it's acting out, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol or pornography or gambling or cutting or violence or whatever it is. Okay, whatever it is. Okay? I got this quote. Is it all right if I read another quote? This is from Russell Brand. Are you familiar with Russell Brand? He's a British fella. I think he used to be a comic, and he went through rehab several years ago, and he talks a lot about recovery nowadays. And this is a statement from him. He said, oddly, counterintuitively, he always uses words like that. Kind of cracks me up, but oddly and counterintuitively, in our culture, our individualism and self-centered valor is by self-centered valor. It is by our surrendering that we can begin to succeed. It is by admitting that we have no power, that we can become the process of access all power we will ever need. So we can access that power when we recognize where we're powerless, and we then rely, in my opinion, we rely on God, the almighty power, to help us in where we know that we're powerless. But as long as we're lying to ourselves or pretending that it's not so, we are actually pushing him out. So he's not able to help us. Right, Sean?
Right.
That's what we talked about earlier, remember?
Yeah.
This basically the same thing. And we're doing it for a good reason, because we think, well, I can take care of me. I don't need God. Well, Apostle Paul found that out, and in 2 Corinthians 1, that first chapter, he thought he was going to die. And he finally realized in the middle of that experience that what he needed to do is really stop relying on himself, but learn to totally rely on God. In fact, that's what I talked about last Thursday on my Thursday talk. Encouraging words with Doug. So, this paradox of powerlessness is powerlessness does not mean that we're helpless, okay? Because you have a lot of power in a lot of other areas. You just don't have power in the area that puts you in this place right here. Does that make sense? And that's not trying to shame anybody, because we all have it. And I had a lady here a while back says, I'm not addicted to anything. I said, you're probably addicted. I really actually said this. I don't know why I said this so boldly, but I said, you're probably more addicted than most people. And you don't even know it. Because see, it's not just drugs, and it's just not alcohol, and it's not just pornography, and it's not just violence, and it's not gambling, it's not all those things. It's those things that you were looking to try to escape reality, like Tommy was talking about. You created a fantasy or you had trauma that you were trying to escape from, to avoid, to make you feel powerful, to make you feel safe, or to numb you out so you didn't feel at all. And what you needed to do is really to recognize that and deal with it. Yes, sir.
It can be like any compulsive behavior.
Any compulsive behavior, because the compulsive behavior is a fear response to what's going on, because you're afraid that you can't do it, you're not enough, you're insufficient, whatever, and all you're doing is a way of trying to avoid that you're afraid of. Now, it's with good intentions. You're trying to survive, okay? And I'd rather you survive than not survive, okay? To be honest with you, does that make sense? All right? But the fact of it is, that survival mechanism is killing you. And if you continue to use that survival mechanism, those survival mechanisms, it destroys your life. I know people that use gambling as a way to escape. And it started out harmlessly, so they said. But the fact of it is, it gobbled them up and caused them to do things that they would never have imagined that they would do. We have to play the movie forward. You had your hand up?
Yeah, is it possible to go, I know it's possible to go, when you're addicted to something, you went too far. But is it possible to go too far to the non-addiction side? In other words, is there a happy medium, or is it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're talking about, let's use the term, be able to do drugs recreationally, and you're able to be able to maintain and what they call functioning, or a social drinker, and you're able to function. And it's like this story I read about this guy that had a really good business, and he this business guy, he smoked dope, okay? And as far as he was concerned, that helped him manage his life, okay? It kind of just helped him go with the flow. But the trouble is, and he thought it was helping him to be able to do his business, and his business was very successful. But the trouble is, yes?
When you say smoke dope, are you talking about marijuana or other drugs?
Well, they said smoke dope,
Okay.
and I'm just using their words, okay? And so I can't, those were their words. And so, and I know what you mean, but that's what he said. And, but I know people, I know a business guy, that, he took meth, to help him to function, in his business, and he did quite well, until he realized that was taking him down the wrong road. And same with this guy smoking dope, whatever it was. He realized that, that because he was doing that, it caused him to not deal with any of the family problems, the kid problems, and so he disassociated himself from the reality of his family life, and that caused his family to implode or explode, whatever it was. Anyway, he lost his family because he was using dope to manage his life so that he could function and do his business, but he wasn't able to do his family life. He disassociated from them. Because he didn't have any problems now because the dope was taking care of it. You follow me? Because he felt no pain. And if there was no pain, then there was no problem. If you think there's a problem, it's your problem, because I don't feel a problem. Because I'm okay.
Right.
Anybody here? No, you don't answer that. So did that story help answer that question then?
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but the fact of it is, just, I know another guy that he has a successful business here in the surrounding areas, and when he was younger, I worked with him with a issue, and it was negatively affecting his life in a big way, and helped him navigate through that stuff. And this is probably 30-some plus years ago, and even though he learned to manage his life and the substance, he's still dancing with it a little bit, because he believes that he has the power to control it, and from the outside looking in, it looks like maybe he's right, but I have a question about that.
He's right until he's not.
Right, and so, but hey, it's not my life, okay? I'm here to try to help. I'm not here to run your life or control or make decisions for you. I'm saying, what would life be if you didn't sabotage yourself ever so often? Right?
And there are
You wanted to say something?
very good functioning addicts out there, like my mom, she could stay stoned all day long, smoke pot all day long, do meth, and at night get drunk, because she's always been an alcoholic, get drunk and be a valedictorian easily. She just knew how to organize everything and get the right people around her to help her, and she could do it with ease. And, I take one hit and I can tell you what I learned at school today.
And the sad part of it is that, yes, maybe they can, but how would their life be if what is it they're giving up for that?
Right.
What is that really costing you? Well, you say, well, this is what I choose. I guess you can choose that, but it goes without having negative side effects
Right, I didn't
in
think
you.
it was always nice.
So, right. So, and I'm not trying to beat up on anybody. Okay, I'm just. And hey, am I absolutely right? I think I am, or I wouldn't be saying it. But that's what I know. That's what I've studied. That's what I've seen. That's my experience. That's what I've seen for. Like I said earlier, this meeting's been going on right at 17 years, and I did a recovery meeting for 5 years before that, and worked with people for a long time. And so I and there's reasons why we do what we do,
Right.
okay? And I believe, I like what Gabriel Mata says. He says, the real story is not that because of the trauma in people's lives, the story is not that people have drug issues. It's that the story is that people that are able to work through their traumas and not have drug issues. Okay, and the fact of it is, because we have to learn ways to deal with the hurt, the pain, the hurt, the trauma, the issues in our life. And the trouble is, most of the unhealthy mechanisms are easier to make contact with than a lot of the healthy mechanisms. Okay? Enough said on that? All right. And so, let me hit a couple more points. Oh man, we're way over time, aren't we?
Not at 30 yet, though.
All right. Another quote that you all know, and that's the Serenity Prayer. And that is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, right? God, grant me the serenity of the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's so important, because the things that we cannot change is we can't change other people. We can't change other people's emotions. We think we can, but we can't. All right, it's not within our power. Okay, we can't change the weather. Right? We can't change the world. We can't change reality. Right? Definitely not the past. Okay. All right. Now there's a couple of things that we can theoretically change, and that's our attitude and our actions, right? But we're not very good. We're not very good. Not very good about those two things. But they're the things we got the biggest possibility of affecting.
We
Okay.
can change how the past affects us.
I like to say it this way. We can alter our past by choosing a healthier present, and every time we move into the future with a healthier present, that present becomes the past, and the sum total of the past then is altered, because now you're sending healthy stuff back into the past instead of unhealthy, and that changes the sum total of that past. It doesn't change the deeds, but it changes the entire package a little bit. And the further we go, the better it gets. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, I had this written down here by Dr. Carl Jung, and it says, what you resist persists. Okay? And that is that if we resist being powerless, we're going to be stuck in powerlessness in that area. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop. I want to do one thing. Okay, I've got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 things, but I'm not going to do those. I only want to do one if I can find it here, and that is that's this. And are you admitting or accepting? Question mark. Are you admitting or accepting? Think about it. Are you admitting or accepting? The step talked about admitting that we are powerless, right? Okay? I can't even find that on my sheet now, but I know what it says. But so the question is admitting and accepting the same, or is it different? Is there a difference?
Different.
It's different.
Okay, good. All right. The definition of admitting then is what?
Saying it out loud.
Saying it out loud. Good. That's actually one of the definitions. Saying it out loud.
Or to others, yeah.
Or to others. Or confessing. Another dictionary. That's admitting to something. Saying it out loud. All right. Accepting. What would be the definition of it?
Being okay with.
Okay.
Realizing that you do and you need to change. Or
Okay.
you do something you change.
All right. Anybody else?
To realize the validity of something.
Okay, right. What it said is looking at something in a deeper and meaningful or with value, recognizing what's going on there, and that means accepting something. It's not just a surface deal. That's meaning. Another definition was that you consent to receive. Okay, in other words, I am accepting this. Okay, and it's that you're committed in that in a deeper way. So, questions? We'll just stop right there. Any questions, comments? Okay, all right. I don't know what happened to my time. Well, where'd it go? You guys got me worked up, I guess, and it slipped by. So, all right, well, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you peace.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Make healthy